Sir, step away from the table and show me your ID. Now!
Officer, excuse me, I'm Commander Okonquo, United States Navy. This is my dress uniform.
I don't care who you claim to be. Get up or I make you get up.
I've committed no crime. I'm asking for your badge.
Stand up!
And your supervisor.
Now!
Officer Dale Hendricks thought he was responding to a credible threat. An anonymous tip alleging suspicious armed blackmail inside an upscale restaurant and a possibly stolen military uniform. In his mind, confronting the suspect was standard protocol, the kind of call he had handled dozens of times before, approaching people who didn't belong in places they had no business being. Never questioned, never challenged. But when he walked into Magnolia House on a warm Saturday evening and approached a black man in full navy dress whites sitting across from his elderly mother at a candlelit table, he made a catastrophic miscalculation. Commander Elijah Okonquo, a 38-year-old decorated Navy SEAL with 19 years of active duty service, a Silver Star recipient who had bled for his country in 4 combat zones, born and raised in rural Georgia, knew exactly what was happening the moment Hendricks locked eyes on him and walked past every white patron in the restaurant. And what Hendricks didn't know, what he completely disregarded in his rush to confront the only black man in the dining room, was that his body camera was recording everything. Every word, every gesture, every moment of racial profiling was captured in high-definition video with crystal-clear audio. That footage, combined with 14 CCTV cameras inside Magnolia House recording from every conceivable angle, would eventually reach the White House, trigger a federal investigation, and cost Hendricks 52 years of his life in federal prison. Hendricks had been with the Kensington Police Department for 16 years, building what his supervisors called an exemplary record of proactive community enforcement. But beneath that reputation lay 31 civilian complaints, 27 of them involving people of color. Each alleged racial profiling, discriminatory enforcement, and constitutional violations. Every complaint had been reviewed by Internal Affairs and dismissed as unfounded. His supervisors praised his zero-tolerance approach, his willingness to make stops other officers avoided. Fellow officers had given him a nickname, the Gatekeeper, for his habit of removing minorities from businesses, restaurants, and public spaces based on nothing more than how they looked. In reality, Hendricks operated on the assumption that his badge granted him absolute authority, that the rights guaranteed by the Constitution didn't apply when his instincts told him someone was out of place. He had been recorded on body camera, using racial slurs during traffic stops, but the footage had been buried by a department that valued aggressive policing over accountability. He had stopped, detained, and humiliated dozens of black and brown citizens over 16 years, and not once had he faced meaningful discipline. Until that Saturday evening at Magnolia House, no one had held him accountable, and Hendricks believed no one ever would. Commander Okonquo had spent 19 years defending the country that was about to treat him like a criminal. 4 combat deployments, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, each etched scars, both visible and invisible, into a man who had given everything in service to his nation. He earned the Silver Star for extracting 3 wounded Marines from a collapsing compound in Kandahar under withering enemy fire, carrying the last one 400 meters on his back, while taking rounds from 2 directions. He received the Purple Heart after shrapnel tore through his shoulder during a firefight in Fallujah, spending 3 months in recovery before volunteering to redeploy. He led classified operations that would never make the news, trained foreign special forces units across 3 continents, and was personally commended by 2 secretaries of defense for exceptional valor and leadership. Before he was Commander Okonquo, he was just Elijah, a skinny kid growing up in poverty in rural Georgia, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. Lillian Okonquo had been a schoolteacher for 34 years, spending her days educating other people's children and her nights making sure her own son had every opportunity she never did. She sacrificed vacations, new clothes, her own comfort. Everything funneled into Elijah's future. When he earned his commission and pinned on his SEAL Trident, she cried for 3 hours straight. Now Lillian was turning 70, and Elijah wanted to give her something she'd never had. Dinner at Magnolia House, the fine dining restaurant she'd seen in magazines for years, but never imagined she'd visit. This was his gift to her, a celebration of the woman who made everything possible. Magnolia House sat on the corner of Broad and Lafayette in Kensington, Virginia, a historic fine dining establishment that had served the area's wealthiest families for over 40 years. White tablecloths, crystal stemware, soft piano music drifting through a dining room designed to feel like old Southern money. The clientele skewed wealthy and almost exclusively white. Reservations were made weeks in advance, and the dress code was strictly enforced. The restaurant had an extensive security system. 14 CCTV cameras covering every angle of the dining room, bar, entrance, kitchen, and parking lot in ultra-high definition, installed 2 years earlier after break-in. The cameras recorded continuously, capturing every table, every interaction, every moment in crystal clear detail. Commander Okonquo and his mother were seated at a window table at 6:45 p.m., the evening light filtering through sheer curtains. He wore full navy dress whites, his medals gleaming under the chandeliers, the silver star and purple heart catching the warm light every time he moved. Lillian sat across from him in a deep blue dress she had bought specifically for the occasion, her eyes wide as she studied the leather-bound menu. Their server, Carolyn Voss, later testified under oath that Commander Okonquo and his mother were the most polite and gracious customers she had ever served in 4 years at Magnolia House. They said please and thank you for everything, Voss told the jury. He pulled out his mother's chair. He asked me about my day. They were lovely people. They were just happy to be there together. The call came in at 7:12 p.m., an anonymous complaint alleging suspicious armed blackmail inside Magnolia House, possibly wearing a stolen military uniform. No specifics, no evidence, just vague accusations that should have been investigated before any action was taken. But Hendris didn't wait. He grabbed his partner, Officer Tara Lyndon, and headed to the restaurant. Both officers activated their body cameras as they stepped out of the patrol car at 7:31 p.m. Hendris pushed to the front door, his camera capturing the elegant dining room, dozens of patrons enjoying their meals in quiet conversation. He didn't stop at the hostess stand. He didn't speak to the manager. His body camera showed him walking directly past every white patron in the restaurant, straight toward the only black man in the dining room. "I need to see your identification," Hendris said, his voice carrying across nearby tables. "We received a report about someone wearing a stolen military uniform." Okonquo's jaw tightened, but 19 years of military discipline held. "Officer, I'm Commander Elijah Okonquo, United States Navy. This is my dress uniform." He reached slowly into his jacket and produced his active duty military ID and Department of Defense credentials, holding them up in the chandelier light. The photo, the name, the rank, the DoD seal. Everything was clearly visible on both body cameras and 9 CCTV angles. Hendris barely glanced at them. His camera recorded his eyes moving away almost immediately. "These could be fake," he said. "Anyone could buy a costume online." Costume. Lillian's eyes filled with tears. Lyndon shifted uncomfortably, her camera wavering. She could see the silver star and purple heart on Okonquo's chest. Decorations no costume shop could replicate. But she said nothing. "Officer, I like your badge number, and I'd like to speak with your supervisor," Okonquo said, his voice controlled. Hendris's face flushed. "Stop playing, soldier. Walk out, or I help you out. Your choice." What happened next was captured from every conceivable angle. 2 body cameras, 9 CCTV cameras, and 12 patrons who pulled out their phones the moment Hendris raised his voice. Okonquo sat with his hands flat on the table, deliberate non-aggression visible on every camera in the room. "Officer, I'm not leaving. I haven't committed a crime." Hendris snapped. His body camera lurched forward as he grabbed Okonquo by the arm and attempted to wrench him from the chair. Okonquo instinctively braced, his body locking against the force, a reflexive response hardwired by 2 decades of combat training. Lyndon's camera clearly showed his hand still flat on the table. "He's resisting." Hendris shouted into his radio, "I need backup at Magnolia House." He didn't wait. He grabbed Okonquo with both hands and slammed him face first onto the table. Plates shattered. Glasses exploded. A decorated war hero's face was driven into the surface, where moments earlier he'd been celebrating his mother's 70th birthday. Lillian screamed. The sound captured on every audio feed in the room. Hendris cuffed Okonquo with such force the metal bit into his wrists, drawing blood. His dress uniform tore at the shoulder. His medals were ripped from his chest. The silver star, the Purple Heart, scattering across the hardwood floor. Then the CCTV captured something that would play on every news network in the country. As Hendricks dragged Okonquo toward the door, he stepped directly on the fallen silver star, the medal awarded for extracting wounded Marines under enemy fire, crushing it under his boot. Behind them, Lillian collapsed in the booth, clutching her chest, a cardiac episode. An ambulance was called for her while her son was dragged out in handcuffs, his torn uniform stained with food and blood, his medals scattered across the floor of the restaurant where he had come to give his mother the birthday she deserved. Okonquo was transported to Kensington Police Department and processed into a holding cell at 8:14 p.m., where he would remain for 11 hours. Hendricks booked him on 4 charges: resisting arrest, assault on a police officer, trespassing, and stolen valor. Every single one fabricated. Every single one contradicted by the body camera footage already stored on department servers. Okonquo requested his phone call immediately. He was denied. He requested again at 9 p.m. denied. Again at 10 o'clock. Denied. For hours passed before he was allowed to contact anyone. A violation of his constitutional rights documented on holding cell surveillance cameras, recording continuously in high definition. But the surveillance captured something far worse. During booking, Hendricks stood outside the holding cell with 2 other officers, clearly visible on camera, and mocked Okonquo's torn uniform. "These people think they can put on a costume and sit wherever they want," he said, laughing. The audio captured every word. The other officers laughed with him. Meanwhile, 6 miles away, Lillian Okonquo lay in a hospital bed at Kensington Memorial, alone and terrified. The cardiac episode triggered by watching her son's arrest had been diagnosed as an acute cardiac event requiring monitoring and medication. She asked repeatedly about her son. No one had answers. No one from the police department contacted the hospital. No one told Okonquo his mother had been hospitalized. He sat in a holding cell on fabricated charges, while his 70-year-old mother lay in a cardiac unit, wondering if her son was alive. But someone at Kensington PD had a conscience. Officer Tara Lyndon, visibly disturbed by everything she had witnessed, quietly stepped outside during a break and made a phone call to Naval Station Norfolk. She identified herself, described what had happened, and provided Commander Okonquo's name and service details. That single phone call set in motion a chain of events Dale Hendricks never saw coming. The United States Navy does not abandon its own. Within 2 hours, Naval Station Norfolk had verified Commander Okonquo's identity, service record, security clearance, and active duty status. His commanding officer, Rear Admiral Franklin Du Bois, was briefed at his home at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, the Admiral was on the phone with the Kensington Police Department. The call was recorded on the department's phone system. Du Bois's voice was controlled, but barely contained fury radiated through every word. "You are currently holding Commander Elijah Okonquo, a decorated Navy SEAL with 19 years of service to this country, a Silver Star and Purple Heart recipient, on charges that are demonstrably false. I am directing you to release him immediately. If he is not released within the hour, I will be contacting the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, and the Judge Advocate General's office." The desk sergeant panicked. Calls went up the chain. Hendricks was pulled from his home at 1 a.m. and told to drop all charges immediately. He protested, insisted the arrest was legitimate, but the damage was already done. Every moment had been recorded: body cameras, CCTV, holding cell surveillance, the department's own phone system. Okonquo was released at 3:26 a.m., still in his torn dress uniform, and driven directly to his mother's hospital room by Officer Lyndon, who never spoke to Hendricks again. By morning, the story had leaked. A Navy SEAL in dress whites arrested for eating dinner with his mother. Restaurant patrons had uploaded their phone footage overnight. 40 million views in 48 hours. Veterans organizations mobilized nationwide. Congressional offices flooded Kensington PD with calls. The Pentagon issued a formal statement calling the arrest deeply disturbing. Cable news ran the footage on loop. Then the White House called. The president was briefed during a morning intelligence summary. According to senior staff, he was furious. Within hours, the White House issued a public statement that ricocheted across every news outlet in the country. What happened to Commander Okonquo is a disgrace to the nation he has spent his life defending. No American, especially one who has bled for this country, should be brutalized for the color of their skin. The president personally called Commander Okonquo and his mother at Kensington Memorial Hospital. The call lasted 22 minutes. Lillian later said she cried the entire time. The Department of Justice opened a federal civil rights investigation the same day. FBI agents arrived at Kensington Police Department at 6 a.m. the following morning with federal warrants. They seized body camera servers, every CCTV recording from Magnolia House, internal communications, personnel files, disciplinary records, and citizen complaint archives going back 20 years. What investigators found went far beyond one officer and one arrest. Over 200 civilian complaints have been filed against Kensington PD over 2 decades, the overwhelming majority involving people of color. Complaints have been systematically buried, evidence destroyed, body camera footage marked as corrupted or lost on at least 48 occasions. Internal affairs investigations closed without interviews, without evidence review, without accountability. The pattern was undeniable. The investigation expanded from Hendricks to his supervisors, to internal affairs, to the department's entire chain of command. The Department of Justice brought sweeping federal charges. Hendricks faced 14 counts, including conspiracy to deprive civil rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, deprivation of rights under color of law under Section 242, falsifying police reports, evidence tampering, and assault. 3 supervisors were charged as co-conspirators. The trial became a national spectacle. Veterans lined up before dawn. The prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. Body camera footage, all 14 CCTV angles, holding cell surveillance, recorded phone calls, and testimony from 67 prior victims. Commander Okonquo testified in full dress uniform. Lillian testified from a wheelchair. The jury deliberated less than 6 hours. Guilty on all 14 counts. At sentencing, Judge Raymond Cortez delivered words that would be quoted for decades. Hendricks received 52 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. His supervisors received sentences ranging from 8 to 15 years. The civil lawsuit settled for $34.7 million. Kensington PD was placed under a federal consent decree. Commander Okonquo later established the Okonquo Veteran Civil Rights Foundation, testified before Congress, and received the Presidential Citizens Medal at the White House. Magnolia House installed a permanent display dedicating the table where it happened. And in the end, it was Hendricks' own body camera, the device he trusted to protect him, that captured the moment his power destroyed him.